Good morning, fellow Ghanaians. So this morning, today, JoyNews, Joy FM, Joy Prime, we begin a new journey. It is a hard but necessary one. It's a national mirror we are holding up to ourselves and to our government and our own conscience. We call it Dear Mahama. It is a special docu-series that seeks to shine the light, that is the piercing, uncomfortable, truth-telling light on the devastation of Galamsey across our country. It is not a campaign of malice, but of love, not of politics, but of patriotism. It is in its truest sense a cry for our land, our rivers, and our own future. And yet, even before the first episode aired, some supporters of the NDC and a few government officials chose anger over understanding. They saw a graphic with the face of the president that has been placed next to the word Dear Mahama, and they concluded wrongly that JoyNews was seeking to lay blame at John Mahama's feet for the Galamsey menace. That reaction, fellow Ghanaian, was misplaced because this is not about blame, it's about responsibility. No one in this media house or within our environment believes that John Mahama created Galamsey. This national disease is far older than its presidency. It has festered across administrations, NDC and MPP alike, through decades of half-hearted enforcement, political expediency, and official complicity. But fellow Ghanaians, John Mahama is president now. The mandate is his. The promise is his. The responsibility is his too. The future of this nation's rivers, forests, and farmlands now rests squarely at his doorstep. Dear Mahama is therefore not an attack. It is a reminder that in his campaign for the 2024 elections, he promised a decisive break from the failures of the past. He promised that under his watch, there will be real, measurable, aggressive action to reclaim our environment from the hands of destruction. And so as journalists, as citizens, as people who still believe in this nation's future, it is not only our right, but our duty to remind him of that promise. Because the truth, fellow Ghanaians, is that if this government does not deal with Galamsey and deal with it decisively, it will become its Waterloo. 10 months in President Mahama's administration is largely been scandal-free. The economy is rebounded, inflation is down. We are single digits now. The cedi is relatively stable. Investor confidence is picking up. And the general air in the country is one of calm after a storm. But there is a shadow growing in the background, a brown, murky shadow, and it is spreading across our rivers and our forests. It is the shadow of Galamsey. Fellow Ghanaians, the turbidity levels of our water bodies are now beyond comprehension. The Pra, the Ankobra, the Ofin, the Brim, the Densu, rivers that once sparkled like silver ribbons, that went through our valleys, have now turned into liquid mud. What once gave life now spreads poison. The Ghana Water Limited, taxed with treating this toxic mess for domestic consumption, says the cost of chemicals is ballooning by the day. The more the illegal miners dig and dump, the more the company must pay to make our water even remotely drinkable. And now these costs are being passed on to consumers through outrageous tariff hikes, so the poor Ghanaian who neither minds nor profits from this madness now has to pay for it through their pocket, for their health and their future. So fellow Ghanaians, that is what this is about. And we are just saying enough is enough. When we put the president's picture on Dear Mahama graphic, it was because we wanted to speak directly to him, not as a man to be blamed, but as a leader to be reminded, as the man who today holds the highest authority to change the course of this nation's environmental destiny, as the one who, unlike his predecessors, still enjoys the goodwill of the people. For far too long, successive governments have spoken tough but acted weak. They have held press conferences, launched task forces, formed committees, announced operations, and declared even wars. And yet the excavators keep digging, the rivers keep dying, and the forests keep bleeding. We've watched as our ministers tore destroyed lands, issued solemn warnings, and then went back to Accra to sleep. We've seen soldiers sent to the field to fight illegal mining, only to become part of the cartel they were sent to dismantle. We've seen community mining schemes launched as smoke screens for illegal mining by the powerful, the connected. So Dear Mahama seeks to confront these issues head-on, to show with evidence and stories from the ground how entire communities are being erased, how children are being born with deformities from poisoned water, how farmers can no longer till their lands because the topsoil is gone, how fish in our rivers are dying, how sacred groves have been bulldozed, how greed has taken root in the hearts of men who call themselves leaders. This is not propaganda. This is journalism. This is truth. And the truth is that Ghana is on the brink of environmental collapse. We are losing our rivers, our forests, and our arable lands, and with them, our food security, our climate sustainability, and our national dignity. If this continues, fellow Ghanaians, there will come a day when we'll open our taps and nothing will flow. And we'll import drinking water in tankers from abroad. When our cocoa will no longer grow because the soils are dead. When our lungs will breathe dust and mercury instead of oxygen. And when that day comes, what will we tell our children? That we destroyed their inheritance for gold, that we poisoned their water for profit, that we traded their future for a few coins in the hands of greedy men. The Dear Mahama series will tell the stories that must be told. The stories of fishermen turned refugees, of farmers who have turned beggars, of entire communities displaced by the greed of a few. It will show the real faces of this tragedy. It will document the environmental crimes that are robbing this nation of its soul. And yes, it will demand accountability. Because the time for half measures is over. President Mahama, Dear Mahama, this is your moment. History is giving you another chance to do what your predecessors could not do or did not do. A chance to save this country's environment from irreversible ruin. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to have the courage to use it. You have the tools, the EPA, the Minerals Commission, the Forestry Commission, the Ghana Water Limited, the security agencies, Parliament, civil society, the media, the law itself. All of them are at your disposal. They are at your beck and call. What is missing is not power, it is will. You have shown political will in other areas. You have revived the economy faster than many expected. You stabilized the currency. You have kept the peace. You have avoided a scandal. Now you have to show that same will, that same unflinching leadership in the fight against Galamsey. Because if you do not, it will not matter how many roads you build, or hospitals you open, or factories you launch. None of them will matter if the water we drink is poison. None of that will matter if the land we farm is barren. And none of that will matter if we can no longer breathe clean air. The Dear Mahama campaign is, in truth, a love letter to you. It is the voice of citizens pleading with their leader to rise above politics and act decisively. It is the cry of mothers watching their children fall sick from polluted water. It is the cry of farmers watching their lands turn into dead zones. It is the cry of an entire generation that still believes this country can be saved. And to those who accuse the media of targeting the president, you misunderstand our role. The media's job is not to sing praises to power. It is hold it accountable, to remind leaders of their promises and to demand results and to give voice to the voiceless. If you mistake that for hostility, then perhaps you fear what truth looks like. Fellow Ghanaians, the president's allies may find comfort in political loyalty, but history has no party card. When the last tree falls and the last river dies, it will not ask whether you were NDC or MPP. It will ask whether you stood by and watched. And even if it doesn't, you are going down. And so this morning, as we launch Dear Mahama, we ask not for defense, not for praise, but for action. Let this be the moment the tide turns. Let this be the beginning of the end of Galamsey. Let this be the point this country chooses life over greed. Because if we do not, the rivers will die, the forests will disappear, and with them, this nation's soul. Dear President Mahama, we are not your enemies. We are your conscience, speaking out loud. Listen, not to us alone, but to the rivers, to the lands, and the people who have no voice. That is how you change. Galamsey will either be your greatest triumph or your greatest undoing. There is no middle ground. It will not be about the economy. The next 4 years will be about Galamsey. The choice is yours, Mr. President. Good morning, fellow Ghanaians.